We've been fostering for 12 years and we got into fostering really, I think, on the back end of having our own 2 children. And for me anyway, there's a little bit of reflecting on when your own 2 children are young. And in the case of ours as well, we'd overcome a few health scares with them, and you get to the stage where you feel comfortable and you're reflecting really on how lucky you've been to get where you are. And then you start sort of looking at what else you can contribute. I think at that point I was fairly comfortable in my job in the RAF. We maybe had some financial struggles as well that go with having children and trying to live off one wage, that kind of routine. So at the point where we felt we were getting comfortable and over that hump, you then start thinking maybe, you know, can I do something to help other people, I suppose, above and beyond what we ordinarily do. And it did coincide with me just seeing some advertising, actually, coincidentally just on a billboard in Sheffield where I was working at the time as a Armed Forces recruiter. And when I came home and mentioned it to my wife, she'd coincidentally been thinking about it herself anyway, and we'd just not spoken about it to each other. So from there it sort of snowballed, and it took from that point there probably a couple of years to go through the process of thinking about it, making inquiries, meeting people, and then actually going through the process of becoming carers. Excuse me, I don't know an exact figure. We have got a family tree up in the kitchen that's got all the branches off it with the names on, so I think it's 13. We've got maybe 14 or 15 with us at the moment that are not yet on the tree. Well, the rewarding stuff comes in, I think, really small packages, and they're sort of moments in time, but they can also be days or weeks at a time, and they're just those times when a child is with you and you're with a child and you're feeling as though that you're helping them progress to something and making progress, and their life is moving forward, and not necessarily always where they would really love and want it to be, which in many cases is back with their birth families if that's possible, but at least somewhere where you know that they're going to be better cared for, better looked after, and they've got a better future ahead of them. The highlights, but the challenges I think come, for me anyway, from the restrictions that you have within your role, and there are restrictions. You're a foster carer, and that relationship with the child that you're caring for changes from child to child because it needs to, it's bespoke for that child, but it always involves other agencies and it always involves other people who have a say in what happens to that child, and part of your role is negotiating those relationships with other agencies and people who are interested in the child and looking after the child's best interest, but also maybe people who are looking after the birth family's best interests as well, because they need to be represented. They're massively important, and representing your interests because you have a social worker assigned to you. So you not only have that core relationship of it's all about the child, they're the most important person. The next most important people are where they've come from and what's happening with those people who are at the back of that trail. And then there's you as well, and then there's all the professionals involved. And so you like to think, I suppose, in many ways, you always try and make it appear to the child as though they're part of your family, and that's the way you should aim to go. But actually, you have some restrictions with the children that you care for that you don't have with your own children, and that's a frustration. I think it can be. So you have to learn to deal with that. You know, it's necessary because it's right that all these people are looking after the child's best interests. And you know, sort of a rough guide for us anyway that seems to have worked is spend about 2 weeks. It depends on circumstances and what's going on. Just trying to go along with the child and just trying to help them feel comfortable in whatever ways they're showing you and telling you that might happen. I mean, we've had babies, so of course they're not going to actually tell you, and that's a little bit different, I suppose. We have looked after quite a few babies, but when you're after children who can communicate one way or another how they feel, then I think part of that is trying to create that transition from what they're used to what is going to be. And in some cases, in many cases for us, they've come from places where there's been neglect involved, and so that can manifest itself in many ways, but quite often it's in the way that they look after themselves or the way they try and acquire food or other resources. So for a few weeks you might just have to go along with what they're used to and just try and follow that and just keep it safe and within parameters, but you know, not really just coming straight in and saying, right, these are our house rules, this is how we do it, now you adapt to that. That comes in, but you have to work quite hard, I think, to help the child feel comfortable with that movement towards where you want them to be. I think what Sally and I tend to do is a child comes in and we spend some time with the child for a couple of days, and we're always talking to each other about what we think might benefit this child, and then we go back to the people who might hopefully know them a little bit better. Not always, because sometimes police have come in, social workers have come in, bong, they've gone and they're at your door, and here they go. They know very, very little other than this child needs something else, and so you've not got much to work on. So sometimes it is just you, sometimes there's other information you can bring in, sometimes a child can tell you things, but it's just about trying to build that road for them quite quickly as you can, but not pushing them to what you think might work best for them. The council's always been my first choice, because I think that's where you get straight to everything that needs to happen, and that sort of there's filtering happens after that, and of course other agencies are important and have become arguably more important as council resources dwindle, but nonetheless, you're right there. To me, it's a bit more like frontline, and that's how I justify it to myself and feel happy about what we're doing with the council. I think we're well supported. It does depend on individuals and personalities. You'll get a social worker, for example, and that social worker is an individual, and how they connect with you and how available they are can differ from social worker to social worker. But we're really happy with the social worker we have at the moment. We were in North Yorkshire as well. I think we've been quite lucky. And also the people who help run the fostering side of the organisation there are very responsive and reactive, and when I need to communicate and get ideas from them, they've been really good. Well, definitely just reach out. I think the worry is that people think about it and think about it and think about it and think about it, and then maybe talk themselves out of it or just never get around to it. So I would just say Google it and just get in touch with the people who are there and do a few. Go to the council, but find some independents and talk to them, and see what people tell you and what these organisations tell you, and they will, if they're worth the salt, and they all are, because they all want you, they will put you in touch with people, if you want to, who already foster, who have fostered, and you'll be able to talk to them as well, so it won't just be the people who run the organisation. They're really geared up now to trying to encourage people, and of course there is a process, and they don't just have anybody, but don't let that put you off. I think when I talk to a lot of people, I think they've thought about it, they've always thought, but we didn't think that they want us because of this, because our son was this at the time, or because maybe I had a child in the house who was special needs, and or me and my husband weren't together at the time, or go and ask them, because you'll be surprised. I think they want people at the heart who are in a position to offer children care, and that's it in a nutshell. So I think most people who are thinking about it already have that in their heart, and they just need to go out there and find out whether or not it's right.